Welcome to The Brooklyn with Pooch and Colin. My name is Colin Helwig, Brooklyn Nets beat writer for Nets Daily. We're clocking in today for episode number 36 of the podcast. The Nets, they are fresh off their first win out of the All-Star break. In stunning fashion, they beat the conference-leading Detroit Pistons. So, by default, that means the Nets, they are now the best team in the East. Now, but in all seriousness, with the Nets and the Pistons meeting twice this week, and with so many Nets fans supporting Detroit as the best New York Knicks championship to turn out there right now, we wanted to check in today with someone who knows the team very well. For the first time on the Brooklyn, Khahil of the Lock On Pistons Podcast is here to talk some ball with us. Koo, thanks for making the time, man. I want to get right into it. Nets and the Pistons, they're on completely opposite ends of the ladder right now, even though, the Nets pulled off the win the other night. But same time with the Pistons, you can't really talk about where they're at today without acknowledging how quickly and dramatically they turn things around. So for the Nets fans listening, what advice would you give out? Do you have any kind of words of encouragement as Brooklyn sifts through this rocky phase that everyone is hoping will lead to, smoother years ahead?
Yeah, I think the main thing, obviously, is you have to hit on a top pick. You have to get the top pick, or not the top pick. You have to get one of these top picks and hit on it, and hopefully it's in a draft that has a franchise-changing kind of player. It's one of the reasons why I'm really concerned about what the NBA is going to do this offseason when Adam Silver's talking about making these drastic changes to the draft. I just hope that whatever change they make is that they understand that the point of the draft and the point of everything going on with this is to help bad teams become good. It's not – that's the whole point of it. So I hope whatever change they make keeps that in mind, and whatever it still is trying to help bad teams become good. Because without getting one of these top picks and without getting a franchise player, it's almost nearly impossible to really watch some of these bad teams become great. And the Pistons got that in Cade. They got a few other picks. They got Asar, who's been a big difference maker. They traded up to get Jalen Duren. But the main guy is Cade Cunningham. They got him at number one. And it was rocky for a few years. But once the Pistons surrounded him with just NBA players, just surrounded him with competent players, not stars or anything. They just got adequate spacing. They got adequate players and a head coach that wanted to be here and wanted to see the best out of these guys. Cade really took that leap, and that's all it really took. But it all starts from getting one of these top picks and hitting on it in a draft that has one of these franchise type guys.
Yeah, the Nets, even when the Nets were good, in both instances, if you want to throw it back to the KD Kyrie years, or, they were never as good as they should have been when they had the old man squad with KG and Pierce. But those teams, they built those through free agency and through trade. So Nets have not really had a guy, like a Cade, like a homegrown superstar. So you're absolutely right. I think, and the fans sense that they need it as a team, and I think they need it because, it's, the fan base wants to have a guy that, you can kind of grow with and get behind and, be that homegrown star. I think stars always hit a little bit different when they are homegrown. Now, the Nets had 5 first-rounders last year. They're the youngest team in the league. Looking at, last night, or just if you clocked in with the Nets at any point this season, so anything you see with the Nets right now, whether it's a young player or we talked a little bit about Jordy off screen, like anything that, makes you think, there's some hope here where the Nets could turn things around in a similar way that Detroit did?
Well, I feel like it comes down to the offseason this upcoming in a few months here, what happens with the draft. I think that will be a big, especially in this draft, will be huge for Brooklyn. If they can secure a top 3 pick, I think that would be absolutely huge for them. As far as like the roster currently with the Nets, I really like Jordy Fernandez. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. So I think once you guys get an actual roster that you're trying to compete with, I think you guys have the coach. I think he's tremendous. I think some of the things he's been able to do at times, like it feels like, at least from the outside perspective, it feels like management is kind of like forcing him to lose some of these games where if he could win more games with a bad roster. Like you guys won't end up being a bottom 3 team if Jordy could have it. Like he's really good. I very much like Jordy. And I like MPJ a lot too. I'm interested to see what you guys do with MPJ. Does he stay for the long haul? Does he stay for like this next step of whatever your guys' rebuild is? Or is he used this offseason to try to get even more assets? I thought there was a fair chance you guys might move him at the deadline. But I'm interested to see, do you guys consider him actually a part of the future of whatever you guys try building? And then outside of that, I mean, Igor, I've liked some of the things I've seen from him. He's been a little on and off, but I've seen a few flashes from him to where it's like, okay, I understand why they took him. Some of these other guys, I feel like there just hasn't been a lot to see from. Like Danny Wolf's been fine, like at times. Like he's probably been one of the more interesting ones outside of that, but I feel like he has like a limited ceiling as well. Ben Sarif, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, and Nolan Trayer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing their names right, but they've been like not. I don't even think they've been up on the main roster a lot of the times this year, so it's hard to really get a read on these guys. But I think it's clear. Obviously, it's clear what Brooklyn has decided this year to be, and as long as they get a good pick in the offseason, they're Brooklyn. I know it's maybe not, it's not looked at as like the New York Knicks where they're like, oh, we can get whatever. We're the New York Knicks. But Brooklyn is a pretty cool place to be. And I think as long as you guys have some kind of foundation to build on, you guys could have. I know you said you guys haven't had a homegrown star, but if you can have that homegrown star with a good foundation around it, you guys capture, I believe, is still pretty wide open. I mean, you guys could still go out and get a guy that wants to just play around in Brooklyn, and I think that's certainly possible for you guys.
Yeah, I do believe the Nets will be a top 3 team in cap space again next year. They did a good job of managing their finances where, they can really just continue to kick the can down the road to the point in time where, they realize that, the roster is kind of worth investing in some more veterans, paying some more guys more money to bring onto the team. Obviously, that's a ways away. They are still one of the worst teams in the league right now, but we're big fans of Jordy as well. And Pooch isn't on the pod today, but when we discussed all last year, people didn't really like, because coaches aren't often thought of as like the biggest acquisition or like the star, but like he seemed like, the most. I'm trying to think of a good metaphor here. The Not the light to a moth, but like he's the thing. If anyone's going to come to Brooklyn right now, it seems like it's Jordy. At least until hopefully the ping pong balls fall our way, and then we can go from there. And yeah, the rookies too. I don't know how much you've seen of them. Traore is kind of the one who's been playing pretty well right now, but it's kind of just been like a carousel between whether it's just injuries or guys. Drake Powell had a pretty good like November, December in terms of his defense, but now he's down in Long Island. It kind of feels like there hasn't been one the whole season who has been the rookie to watch. They've kind of just taken turns with the spotlight, but that's kind of how it is sometimes when you draft 5 rooks. So I want to get into the actual games. Last night was crazy. What were your thoughts on how the Nets looked on Saturday? Did anything stand out to you specifically in the comeback?
I mean, to be honest, what stood out to me the most is probably something that I don't know if Nets fans even care about this player, but Day'Ron Sharp like took over, or not. Let me not say took over, but like he was like in the fourth quarter, I feel like he was just bullying the Pistons and kind of just took over the game as like an offensive rebounder, as a roller, hit a three, was active on defense. Like he popped off the screen more than anybody for me, especially late in that game. Day'Ron Sharp did. MPJ, despite having not the greatest shooting night, I thought was still incredibly impactful for you guys. Was very active throughout the night. And I think him just being able to get off the shots that he does forces the Pistons and every other NBA team to guard him a certain type of way. That opens up like these backdoor cuts that he gets, these angles that he opens up for himself to get a lob over the top and just finish right at the rim or get fouled at the rim because teams have to front him. Teams are ready to front the screen, meet him there on the off ball wise, and he's able to just backdoor cut. You can just throw it over. And he had that happen a few times late in the game. But really, to be honest, I don't know how you guys feel about Day'Ron Sharp, but he was the one that popped off the screen to me late in this game. He was really good.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams that play the Nets when they're introduced to Day'Ron Sharp, they're kind of like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" Because Claxton has been starting for years, and I think he is the longest tenured net right now. And for whatever reason, I mean, I'm a Day'Ron Sharp guy too. I said at the beginning of the year I kind of would like to see him start. Him and Claxton are kind of different centers, and especially when you're rebuilding, I think it just makes more sense to roll with the younger guy and try to see what you can get for Claxton. That was a move I wanted them trade him, give Day'Ron the starting minutes, and if it doesn't work, oh, you lose a bunch more games. Whoop de doo. That's probably better for you to begin with, but. We're definitely big fans of Day'Ron on the pod, and I think Nets fans are as well. You know, per minutes stats are always, you can't take it like too seriously when it's bench guys. But I know Day'Ron is one of the best all time per minute rebounders right now in league history because he does attack the glass, especially the offensive glass. So it brings a smile to my face whenever I hear other people talk about him. He's had a really good year, and we're definitely fans of him. What do you think the spread's going to be on Tuesday?
I mean, look, the spread this past game was like 13.5, I think, and the Pistons ended up losing. So I don't think they'll take the chance with that again, though I think Cade will be back for that game. I think he'll play. I think that will probably change things a little bit. I would be shocked if the Pistons lost another one like that. But I maybe the books say, you know what, we just gave them 13.5 and they just lost. So maybe we chill out a little bit. For what it's worth, my friends saw it was 13.5. They texted me like, do you think they covered? I was like, do not take the 13.5. The Pistons don't have Asar. They don't have Cade. Anything could happen here. Just stay. I would stay away from the game. And they actually took Brooklyn to cover and they ended up winning. So they were like, oh yeah, great. But yeah, I think I don't think it'll be as large as 13.5 again. After this kind of game.
I don't know, man. Something makes me think, and maybe this is just overthinking, and not even with like the guys coming back, that now it's going to be even more in front of the Pistons. Like, we just lost to these guys, this tanking team. Like, no way we can let this happen again, and the spread would be even more, like bumping up to 15. But yeah, no, it would definitely be odd for them to do that after the Nets pull off an upset. But
yeah, I mean the Nets. I'll give the Nets credit, man. I mean they kept fighting. They didn't give up. They were down by like 20 plus at one point in the second half. I just completely kind of tuned the game out, to be honest. Like I was just like, okay, it's no Cade, no Asar. They're up by 20 plus on the tanking Nets. It is what it is. And then it ends up like a 5-point game, 6-point game. Like what just happened? And then the Nets made multiple key plays down the stretch. Pistons didn't. And so I give the Nets a lot of credit for continuing to fight and being able to beat the East leading Pistons, especially late in the game, having to make more big time plays later in the game. I give them a lot of credit, though. I forget who it was, whoever it was that fumbled the ball out of bounds when he had a wide open layup.
no,
At the end,
right at the end.
Yeah, right at the end,
Yeah.
they could have had a layup just to ice it right there. He just lost out of bounds. I was like, bro, what? Okay, they might actually pull this out. They might actually escape here with a win. But it wasn't meant to be. The basketball god said, no, you guys didn't play well enough. It's not meant to be. But that was the only moment I was like, is he trying? Like, what's happening here?
Man, there was someone this week. There was like a player on a good team was hurt because he like slept the wrong way. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, if this happened, like it was like he woke up from a nap and like his ankle was like hurting or something. And I was like, if this happened with like a tanking team right now, people would be like going crazy, like just like that Clowney play where it looked like he was just trying to, I don't want to say it, but just make the Nets lose. It was kind of hard to not look like that after the play. And man, I want to talk a little bit more about your team, though. Like, I know I kind of hinted at it earlier. I think a lot of, Nets fans, it's natural to root against the New York Knicks. They're the crosstown rival. You guys have gone belt to ass, honestly, on them every chance you had this season. So I think a lot of Nets fans have been rooting for you guys and will be rooting for you guys. But I know it's kind of been a little bit of a rockier point in the season right now. Not even just the loss last night, but I think you guys lost hard fought, but lost to the Spurs before that. What's your kind of confidence level right now? Does it still feel like, is this something where you're actually concerned? Or do you think, this is just kind of like a point in the season where, the Pistons just want it to be playoff time and it's like, all right, we're going to be the 1 seed. We just kind of got to get there. And sometimes you lose focus.
I am a little bit concerned about the team right now. There's ever since the All-Star break, they have not looked like the team we saw throughout the first 40 whatever games of the year. Since the All-Star break, their defense hasn't been, nearly as good. Their offense has slipped from where even it was before. Before it wasn't the greatest offense. It slipped from there. And the biggest concern is the fact that Asar Thompson is now out for the foreseeable future. And if he's not back before the playoffs, it's pressing the red button time. If he is returning in the playoffs and having to knock off rust in the playoffs and having to get back in peak shape in the playoffs, will JB even start him then? If that's the case, will he start him or will he bring him off the bench? Like, oh, he's on a minutes restriction. Because if that's the case, again, I'm pressing the red button. I think Cade and then Asar are the most impactful players in this team. It's Cade, Asar, Duran's team. If they don't have their best defender, who I think is the best defender in the league outside of Wemby, or on the perimeter, if they don't have him, it's cooked. They're gonna run into a lot of problems without him. And you've seen it over the last few games what they look like on the perimeter defensively without him. They absolutely need him to return before the playoffs so he can knock off the rust and get back in shape before the playoffs actually start. You don't want him spending time in the playoffs trying to do that. That would be very concerning. So we don't really have a timetable on that. They haven't given us one. They just say he'd be out a while. So if he's out until the playoffs, I'm very concerned. Outside of just Asar, though, the bench hasn't been nearly as good as it was earlier in the year. And some of that, I think one of the more concerning things about that is that how much of that was just a hot streak from some of these guys who you don't expect. Like coming into the year, a lot of these guys people didn't expect to be that good for the Pistons, and they were. So how much of that was just like a hot streak that they were really riding? All-Star break comes around, now they're coming back to reality, they're regressing to the mean. Because if that's the case, that could be another issue. Because Dana Shankins earned himself an actual contract with the Pistons, the two-way guy, because he was playing really good for them. Last like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, he's been really bad. And yesterday, I believe he had 11-9. It was the worst 11-9 game you'll ever see. Some of the really bad turnovers, some really bad decision making. That was mostly just due to having the ball in his hands all the time. So he was able to just farm assist, in my opinion. He did not play good at all in that game. Javonte Green's been a little bit more inconsistent since the All-Star break as well. Kevin Huerter, they traded for him. He's barely played. He's been a little inconsistent as well. They've been playing Caris LeVert no matter what, and he's been horrible all year for them. So this bench that was once very deep at one time, they were trying to go 11, 12 deep at like in December or whatever. Now we're reaching a point of, is the two-way guy that ended up getting a contract, is he regressing to the mean? And now do we replace him if that's the case? Our veteran that they brought in, is he going to ever show up, or is he just going to struggle all year? JB seems to not want to give up on Caris, but he has just been bad. Javonte Green's been a little bit more inconsistent since then. Now you're dealing with the injury to Asar. All of this is a little concerning for me going into the playoffs. They got time to kind of turn it around and kind of get back on and prove that it's just a little blip in the calendar, and maybe it is a little bit more what you're saying of, we know we're the 1 seed. Let's just get to the playoffs. We're trying to just make it there healthy. Cade obviously didn't play in a back-to-back, so maybe it's a little bit of that. But the play on the court, they were 8-3 before this. I don't care about the 8-3. Their net rating fell. Their offensive rating completely fell. Their defensive rating really fell. It's not been great basketball since the All-Star break.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, we'll be rooting for you guys to turn it around. Certainly everyone to get healthy. I know you mentioned our boy Caris LeVert. He's still kind of, because he was almost that homegrown guy until, the Nets went all in for James Harden. But, he's still loved among Knicks fans, and it seems like he's been getting a lot of minutes, hasn't been going too well. Why do you think JB has so much confidence in him, and what's the Caris experience been like?
So the Caris experience has been pretty bad. I have never been a fan of Caris LeVert's game. When in the offseason, when the day before free agency, when they said the Pistons are interested in Caris LeVert, he might be the one they go after, I was like, please don't do this. Please don't go get him. And look, the reason why they did it is because in theory, he's a guy who is able to go get his own offense, who is able to quickly, randomly in 7 minutes, he may score 8 points. He has some on-ball juice as a scorer. And he doesn't turn the ball over. And he's tall, he has long wingspan, he's able to compete defensively, gives you length on that end. And then offensively, again, he's just another guy that can handle the ball and go off scoring wise every now and then. The problem for the Pistons is that last year was one of the most efficient, I think the most efficient seasons of his career. The previous 8 years, he had been one of the most inefficient volume scorers in the league. He hovered around 52, 53 true shooting throughout his career. And I was like, okay, is he going to be more one of those? Is he going to be that? Or is he going to be what we saw from him last year? And so far this year, he's been, not only has he not been a very good scorer for the Pistons, he's been largely inefficient. There's this funny stat rolling around the Pistons community where he has a lower rebound percentage than 6'1" Marcus Sasser and 6'2" Danish Jenkins. Like he just doesn't compete on the glass. It's ridiculous. And one of the main reasons why JB kept going with them, even during his struggles early in the year, we believed and were told, is that he doesn't turn the ball over. He can trust them to, if Caden wants to go off the ball, he can trust Caris to run some of the offense. He can trust Caris to not turn the ball over and run the offense. But now, over the last 20 games, he's turned the ball over almost 2 times a game in 17 minutes. He's not playing a lot. He's still turned the ball over crazy. He's not hitting any shots. He has a true shooting percentage of Killian Hayes. He's 46% over the last 20 games. It's been bad. I don't know. There's no other way to say it. It's been straight up bad. The experience. Every time he checks into the game, Pistons fans lose their mind, and we're just hoping that at some point he happens to show a pulse, because it seems like JB, no matter what he does, is going to play him. So we're just hoping he shows a pulse at some point.
Oh man, not Killian Hayes.
I mean, look, when you start hovering around 47 true shooting, that's where you're gonna. That's what's gonna get said.
Oh man, yeah. I think the problem with Caris is that, he's a talented guy. Like he can score like at all three levels. He can pass the ball, but he's not really consistently good at like one thing. And especially when you're an ancillary player on a winning team, like you need to be trusted to hit the corner three consistently, to, hit the low man when you're like breaking through the top of the defense, like all those things. And he's just too like, I don't want to say like Cam Thomas because he's like that times 10 where he can, do some cool things with the ball here and there, but like it's just not a consistent, efficient offensive player. But it's kind of along those lines. Karis is a way better defender, but yeah,
No, yeah, Karis at times Karis pops as a defender. He does. I mean, he's active with his hands. He can do some things. But outside of that, man, it's been. I mean, like the last 10 games, we're looking at 45 true shooting. The last 20 games, we're looking at 46 true shooting. Tearing the ball over, like I don't know. They're so much better with him off the floor versus on too. I think he has the worst on-off on the team. It's rough. It's been rough.
Yikes! Come on, Karis, turn around, bro. All right. Well, one thing we like to do on the Brooklyn is we do drafts, Mount Rushmores. Now, there's Karis included, or maybe not so much for the Pistons these days, but there's been a lot of Nets who have had good careers and who have also played for the Pistons too. So I thought to close us out, we're going to snake draft all-time former Nets and Pistons starting fives. Feel free to, if you just want to go for talent, go for it. If you want to go for fit, go for it. But who you are our guest today, so I'm going to give you the first pick, and we'll go from there.
Man, I'm trying to think of who. So there's one name that comes to my mind instantly, but I feel like I might forget someone who's better. I'll take the risk of being like completely off here. Who's the best one that actually has? I'll go with Bojan Bogdanovic as my first pick.
All right, let me just Bojan. Yeah, Bojan had a good career. I was bummed last year that we didn't at least get to see him, come back in for a game because he was technically on the team, but he was just hurt and then he retired.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Blake Griffin.
Oh my God, I completely forgot Blake went to you guys.
I thought you were gonna.
Blake was one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite Pistons ever too, and I completely forgot that he went and signed with the Nets after.
Dude, it bothers me so much when people talk about prime Blake Griffin and they talk like maybe athletic prime, but his best year was especially that one year when he was shooting the three, playing like actually like a LeBron James like style of basketball, and it was a bummer because the Pistons were kind of like one of those teams like dwindling around the 8th seed, so there weren't too many people talk about him. But yeah, Blake, I really admired how he grew as a player and added to his game.
Yeah, he was he was incredible that year, man. I loved watching him. He became one of my favorite Pistons just from that. He was incredible.
Yeah. All right, and then for the wraparound, I'm gonna go with Jerry Stackhouse. Get some scoring guard in there. Then you got the next.
So like this is why I knew I was gonna forget someone. All right, so I'll go with Bob McAdoo.
Good pick. All right, then you got another one.
And then I'll go with. Damn. Oh my goodness, man. I guess Terry Mills.
Terry Mills. Okay. I didn't have that one down. All right. So I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna take Dennis. Yeah, I'll take Dennis Schroeder. Why not?
That's who I was looking at that, but I'll go with the old head and Terry.
And then wrap around, man. I would I would have taken Caris LeVert unless you had just read off all those terrible numbers. You know what? Andre Drummond. Why the hell not?
Fair. I was gonna take Andre, but I already have McAdoo, so I was like, I can't have both him and McAdoo.
Tough space in there. All right, you got the next two.
All right, these are my last two picks.
Yeah.
All right, so I got Bojan, I got McAdoo, and I got Terry Mills. I'll take. I need a guard. I need like a point guard at this point.
You got.
I take. You know what? I was gonna say I'll take Spencer Dinwiddie. His time with the Pistons was not good, but after the Pistons, he actually carved a really good career. So I'll take Dinwiddie. And then my last pick, give me a shooter. Can I get like a movement shooter or something? Can I get is there someone like that available?
Joe Harris. He didn't do it too much on the Pistons, but
That is so I'm looking at either Joe Harris or Wayne Ellington. I'll go with Joe. Joe is a little bigger, so I feel like maybe he could compete a little bit more. I'll go with Joe as my movement shooter over Wayne.
We love our boy Joe Harris. All right. So I've got Stackhouse, Schroeder, Drummond, Griffin. You like a forward in the middle. I'll take Bruce Brown, glue guy.
That's who I was looking at. Bruce. I love Bruce.
I feel like he fits there. Yeah. Bruce was a good net. Really kind of learned how to shoot that last year, and then went to Denver and really put it together. It was good to see him win the chip, but it was a bummer. He couldn't do it with us. One of the many reasons it was a bummer when the Nets didn't win in 2021 and 22.
Yeah,
that's neither here nor there. All right, so final teams. Kuz got Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, Bob McAdoo, and Terry Mills. I am rolling with Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Dennis Schroeder, Bruce Brown, and Jerry Stackhouse. Let us know who you guys think won this draft.
There's not one piece. There's not even one little bit of defense being played by my team. Not even. We're not even trying on defense. We're just going to try to hit threes and take you out.
Yeah, D'Antoni team right there. All right, Coop. Thanks for coming on, man. It was great chatting with you. If you want to plug your handles, let the people know where they're at so they can find your work.
Yeah, you can find me over on Locked On Pistons Podcast, whatever podcast platform you listen to your podcast, or over on YouTube as well at Locked On Pistons. Appreciate you having me on, man. Hopefully the Nets get a top 3 pick, man, and they can get themselves out of the dwellers.
Yeah, and hopefully the Pistons stop the Knicks from doing the one thing all Nets fans don't want to see them do.
That's the hope.
All right, yeah. So you can follow us at the Brooklyn Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok. You can email us at thebrooklynpod@gmail.com. After the Grizzlies and the Pistons, we're back on the road, and then we're going to play a few more at Barclays after that. Then we're really going to be down in the home stretch, so stay strong, Brooklyn. We are almost there. Peace out, everybody.